Welcome to Beautifully Whole, a podcast spreading awareness on body image and how body dysmorphia affects the mental health within the Asian community. Today's first podcast will focus on how Asian family culture has influenced body dysmorphia within teenagers. We're going to start with introductions. So, hi, I'm Lisa. I'm a first-year psychobio major. I'm a Japanese American who was born in Japan but has been raised in Southern California ever since the age of 3.
Hello, everybody. My name is Chloe Agas. I'm a second-year global studies major at UCLA. I identify as Filipino American, so I was born in New York City but raised in Southern California and grew up surrounded by influences of Filipino culture, and both of my parents are from the Philippines.
Hi, I'm Francesca Rue, and I'm 18, and I'm a first year at UCLA majoring in data science. I was born in New Jersey, but I was raised in SoCal. Both my parents are from South Korea, making me Korean.
Hi everyone, my name is Jessie. I'm a fourth year human biology and society major here at UCLA, and I am Taiwanese. I grew up in Taiwan and I went to an American international school, and I only moved to the States for college.
So let's get started. So the first question I want to ask to you guys is, what influence does your family and culture have on your body image, and does it affect your eating habits? So I can get started with this question myself. So growing up, I went to like a bunch of these family events, like good food, good vibes. But then like there's that one casual like aunt that comes up to me and she's like, "Oh my gosh, Chloe Anak, like you gained so much weight." And I'm like, "Girl, first off, like like number
Not
like
even, how are you?
not even like I was like, "Where's the hi? How are you? How's school? How's life?" But like that really affected me growing up, and it literally started when I was only like 7 years old. So it really like affected me, but at the time I was still a kid, so like it didn't really get me at the time. But once I started becoming like, a teenager, especially like getting into adolescence, like I think it started around like 13 years old when I started to like, get affected, especially my eating habits. Like whenever like especially like at parties and sometimes even like at school eating lunch, like I get conscious about like how much I ate. And like sometimes even now I still feel this way, but I'm trying to like do better. Like it sucks because like I love my family, but it's so like I don't know how to say this because it's not even just at parties. It's like little FaceTime calls and like, casual like Filipino parents, they post like stuff on Facebook. And then like you get a FaceTime call one day from like relatives and then you're like like I'm literally on the couch like looking like a bum basically. And then they're like, "Chloe, like, oh my goodness, like it's either you lost weight or like you gained weight." And then like they're like, "Are you eating enough or are you eating too much?" So in a way that this is like my story, and yes, like it does like affect my daily life to this day. So
I agree with Chloe, because I think even growing up in my household, like I was like more conscious about my body because of my family. Not saying it is their fault, because like obviously they all say it like out of like the good of their own heart, like they care about you and stuff. But I wouldn't hear that much from my parents, but it's like the relatives that don't see you for a while, and then like a year later, like obviously like you grow up, you grow into your body, and your body does mature too. But like my grandma would always be like, "Oh my gosh, you gained weight on your face." So then like every time I'm like, okay, now when I look, like I have to like make sure my face isn't bloated. So like I would always pay attention to that, or like they like hug you and they're like, "Oh my gosh, like it feels nice to see like feel meat on your body and not just bones." And it's like, oh, okay, like but you have to just remember it's like part of you growing into your own body. Um, but the way it affected my eating habits is that because like my mom saw that I was stressed a lot and that like my grandparents would always say something about it, like she would try to like um com- convince me to eat healthier or like have healthier options for me, which like yeah, I appreciated her, but I'm like, oh, so like you kind of agree with them. So it affected me in that sense. And I think hearing things from your family just has a bigger influence on you because they matter a lot more. and it's like people that you've known since birth and they've seen you grow. So it's not just like a first time glance judgment type thing, and they just see how much you've changed even if you don't realize it. So I think it's pretty important.
I think like at least like for my family, like all the relatives, like that's one of the first things you point out when you like haven't seen them for a while. It's like the weight. Like it's like, oh, like I haven't seen you in a while, like let's catch up. But like I think the first thing that like people notice is like how much you've changed, and like that correlates with like how much weight you've gained or lost. And like it's not just like my experience, but like I see it with like even like like my second cousins. Like if I haven't seen him for a while, like my parents will be like, oh my god, like you've changed so much. Or like even with my sister, even if it's like not my personal experience, or even like my dad gets these comments from like his mom. So it's like a generational thing. It's like a never ending thing. So like that's why I feel like even your parents do it like subconsciously. Like they don't like realize sometimes that they are like saying things that affect you, but like it does affect you like severely because it is your parents. Like it's like probably the most people, like you care about their opinions the most. So like for them to be like, oh, like you like change, but like it's like not in the way that like you want to be seen as change is like not the best thing. And like them bringing that up like every single time you meet, it really does like affect like how you look at yourself in the mirror. And like that could also like for me it has like affected like how I see my body. Like I could have the same body like the day before, but like because of what like has been said, I can like notice parts of my body that like I didn't notice before, which can like really affect like not just your eating habits, but like how much you work out and like stuff like that. Because like I feel like working out and eating like it's like related. So like some like for me, I had like periods where it's like I had to work out every day, and if I didn't, I wasn't allowed to eat, like kind of thing. So I think like your family saying stuff like really has an effect on that.
I think a big reason why so much like rhetoric in Asian families is about like diet and your like body is because like food is such a essential part of Asian culture and kind of like our collective love language. I feel like because you know how we don't really demonstrate our love through words. It's usually like your mom bring you cut fruit or like everyone gathering and having a big meal together. I feel like that's why we talk so much about food in general. And like it's their way of showing that they care about you, but it like for different generations it doesn't come off the right way. But also sometimes they don't notice that because that's what their parents also did to them. You know, they're like, "Oh, I'm caring about your health by like seeing how you look because how else would I know like what your health is?" Because also like we don't go to the doctors often as Asians. Well, not generalizing, but from my personal experience. So a lot of it is from like what you see and what you observe from your behavior and your body shape. So that's kind of how I justify the behavior. Not saying it's right, but
I think we can go on to the next question. So the next question I have for all of you guys is, what is the difference between social beauty standards and your family's expectation on your physical appearance?
I can talk about this subject because I grew up like playing sports, so I felt like I was I had more muscle than I wanted, and like at least for me, like the beauty standards, like the social beauty standards were like, oh, like be skinny, like no muscle, just like bone and like skin. But like my family also played sports, so like they'd be like, oh, your muscles are fine, but then like it was like a weird thing because like my parents would be like, oh, like growing muscle is fine, but then they'd be like, oh, but like your weight isn't fine. So it's like I had to have muscle, but like not have that weight from my muscle. So it's like it was like a weird like combination of like them accepting that I was like muscular and like have like I think my like most like self conscious part about playing soccer my whole life was like literally just my soccer legs. Like everyone was like, oh my god, that's like so cool. But like to me, like especially from like what my mom said, that like she was like, oh yeah, I was like this many pounds when I was younger, so it's like the muscle was fine, but then like my weight wasn't fine. So I feel like my family's expectation on that was like, it was like a weird thing where like I'd go back and forth about like being accepting with my body, but then also like not feeling accepted because of like my like mom's expectation she had on like weight. Because like I feel like body image and like your weight is like two different categories when it comes to like body dysmorphia. And like I feel like that's why a lot of people are like, don't look at the scale, don't look at the scale, because it has like such a big effect on your mind. And like I think that's why like the beauty standards got to me, but I feel like my mom's like expectation of like growing muscle but like not gaining that weight was just like really draining.
Did you ever ask her like why she cared so much about your weight?
I like, it's just because she was skinny and like she didn't like her weight, like she'd constantly bring up like her weight when I was her age. So like that's why like she bring it to actually me and my sister more, but like to me too. So like I think she just like expected for our body to grow into like her body. So like how her body grew, like she expected like our body to grow too. Like, well, so like she didn't do the sports I did, and like our body grows differently. So like it was kind of like hard being like, oh like I love my sport and I would never quit my sport because of like my like because of the way my body looks, but like at points I'm just like, I wish I didn't play the sport for this like reason of like my legs looking like, I don't know, like more muscular than I wanted to be because of like how my mom looked when she was younger.
But your mom also did grow up in Japan. Right?
Yeah.
I think we need to understand how different societies are in like East Asia in particular and in America. Like, having been in Japan a few times and living in Taiwan my whole life, like the serving sizes are extremely small, and like everyone walks everywhere, and like diet overall is like more healthy. Whereas in America, like you do like gain a lot of opportunities to do sports and build muscle mass, but also like the food available,
A lot of fast
food, junk food, everything is huge. When I first came here, all the pizzas are like double the size. They're like 2 slices to me. And yeah, that, and also people driving everywhere. I think that like just societal factors have a huge impact on like what our bodies grow into. Like it can be so different living in 2 different places.
I had the opposite experience of Lisa because I did also play soccer, but I ended up quitting soccer around my junior year of high school. So then I started going to the gym a lot because I was like, oh, I still really like exercising. I love working out. So like I gained muscle by lifting and I did weights. And then like in the beginning, my mom was like, oh, it's so good to see you like, you know, be active, like be productive and everything. But then like she was like, okay, but you're like gaining muscle on your arms now and you're gaining muscle on your legs. Like don't lift too heavy because like it's just gonna make you bulkier and everything. And I was like, the balance is so hard to find when you're like, okay, you're trying to have a good protein intake for like what you do at the gym, so it works on your body, but then you don't know whether you should continue doing it because like you're obviously like getting broader, you're getting bigger because that's kind of the point. But a lot of like gym culture is surrounded by like men because that's like the point. And there's a lot of powerlifters and like kudos to them. But I was like, okay, that's like not what I'm going for. So I started cutting down on the weights, which is like completely fine. But like just that, like those comments or those like observations from like family members, it's like, it kind of like puts you in a different mindset of like why you first started working out. But I mean, it's not like it's like her fault that she made those comments because it's like I would have seen them inevitably, but I feel like I was just focusing on something different. So yeah.
I honestly like had that same experience because like I went to the gym over the summer to like, you know, start like getting a workout in, and like I started weights too. But then like when I started weights, like my mom made similar comments to yours, like, oh, like you're gonna gain like a lot of muscle, like you're gonna get super bulky. And I also like you, Lisa, like I grew up playing like a lot of sports and I would get super self-conscious because I would get comments about like, oh, like you have muscles like here and there and like yeah, like low-key they're kind of gone now because I don't play sports anymore, but it's okay. But I still like it got to a point where I just like didn't like enjoy going to the gym anymore. And it's like it sucks because I truly loved like going to work out and like, because also like on social media, like you see all these like, people at the gym, like, it's cool to see like them like having muscles, but then I'm like I would get so self-conscious if I had that and I wish like it didn't have to be that way. So yeah, that's a little bit of my story.
Yeah, I think it's super hard trying to find a balance between trying to be like the best version of yourself, like by working out and whatever, and also trying to like go with our family's expectations of what being healthy is, because being bulky to them doesn't necessarily seem healthy or normal, because I think for me at least, they like expect girls to be like lean, yes,
Yeah.
slim, definitely not bulky. But even though you're like even above healthy, like you're an athlete, they think it's like not acceptable too.
Okay, our next question I have is like kind of similar to what we're like focusing on, but like, do your family members' body appearance have an effect on your body image regarding the ideas of genetics?
I think to a certain extent it definitely does, because like you kind of see like your parents' old pictures and then you see them now, and then you also see your grandparents, and like I feel like body image or like body appearance has a lot to do with genetics. Like people don't understand that like genetics makes up like most of how your body like forms, and it's not all about diet or working out, although like those are like factors. It's mostly genetics, and it's like it affects like your speed of your metabolism and like how easy or hard it is for you to gain or lose weight. And seeing that standard in your parents and your grandparents, you're kind of like, oh, this is what I should be careful of, or like, oh, this is what I should try to do more of, or like it's like, oh, I'm not gonna do this because my mom did it and this is what happened, or like, oh, I'm gonna do this to prevent that. And I think you constantly do think that because you are surrounded by your family, so that's the effect that it has on you. But also, like in some sense, like you should kind of cut yourself some slack and being like, okay, there's only so much you can control of your body, because like genetics plays a big factor.
I like totally agree with that because like sometimes when you're like working out, you forget about the genetics part and you just so focus on like how other people look that like it's kind of just like, wait, like maybe my body's different. But like when it comes to like body image, like that's not the first thing people think. At least like from like my experience and like my friend's experience, it's definitely not like when you look in the mirror, you're like, I wish I looked like someone else. Not like, oh, like this is just me and like this is like how my genetics work. And like I think this like during quarantine I had like a really like big phase where I was like trying to work out and stuff, but then like I was like my body's not looking like those models and just like and then like you kind of just have to remind yourself that it's genetics, but then like sometimes I'm just like if it's genetics, like why was my mom so skinny? But then also like I feel like sports plays a big role in that and like how I exercise my body. So like the way my mom exercised her body and how I exercise my body, it's like way different. And I think like I compare myself to like my mom. Like my dad doesn't really say anything. It's more of my mom. But then I like remember like my dad grew up playing sports and he gained muscle like so quick. So like I feel like that genetics has like a big role in how like my body has like been formed. So like I like sometimes I'm just like wait, oh like it's not just my mom's image that I'm like looking at like I'm supposed to have. It's like my dad. It's like I'm built for my mom and dad, so it's like it's fine to not look exactly like my mom because she lived in a different culture with like I feel like even before it was like worse standards. I feel like now it's more open. Not that it's like good, but like I feel like before her like in her generation, the standards of being skinny. If you look at like these models in like the 1900s or like no like 19 like 90s, these models were like skinny, like insanely skinny. So like I feel like the like beauty standards has changed, and it's like I don't know. It's like the generational like difference plays like a big role.
Yeah, like I was thinking about this for a little bit because there are times, like sometimes we do forget, like, hey, like genetics can play a big part in this because, like, even I go to the gym and I'm like, why hasn't there been any changes? Why don't I look this way? But sometimes, like, we have to remember, like, genetics can play a role. Like, I'll go back to, like, comments especially. Like, it's mostly from, like, my mom's side of the family. Sometimes my mom would ask me, like, hey, like, why aren't you, like, you look like your cousins, essentially. And I'm like, I don't know how to, like, it would, like, even now, like, it would render me speechless. Like, why don't, like, you physically look like them? And, like, sometimes, like, like, it's hard for me to remember, like, hey, like, sometimes, like, I'm built this way because, like, my dad's side of the family, like, they have like slow metabolism. They also have history, like medical, like health, like problems. Especially, I unfortunately have like inherited some of those like problems too, but it's getting under control. But yeah, like especially thinking about this kind of like topic is like it like hits me in a different way because I like basically grew up like wanting to be like my mom's side of the family, but also like it's also accepting like the fact that like even now like it's just who I am. Like this is who I am. Like I accept myself in this way, and I'm definitely doing a lot better. But it's kind of like I just wanted to share and put that out because like you never know, like someone else can be going through the same mindset too.
I have something else I just want to add because I have like an older sister, so like we get compared to on our body image, like how we look, like how like I look and then how she looks by like my mom. So like the genetics part's like weird because like me and my sister technically have like the same genetics from my mom and my dad. Like me and my sister, the way our body's built and how our body like takes food and takes exercise, it's like really different. So like I feel like when it comes to like your family members and like how they looked in the past, it honestly depends on like your body. Like yeah, your family members, it's like your metabolism and everything, but also it's like just your body. Like it's like how your body takes it. And like even if like let's say like my sister did like the same diet, the same exercise, everything as like that I did, like we could look like completely different. So like I feel like that's like a big thing that like I've grown up and like I've like seen over.
Okay, and just to sum everything up, kind of conclude what we've been talking about. So, what can we do about this as a situation? Because body dysmorphia is pretty prevalent and really understated because a lot of times people don't even realize that they have like dysmorphia. So, what can we do to better support our community?
I think first being aware is really important. I think being aware just socially, especially that body image and body dysmorphia within the Asian population is very different than like where we are living, surrounded by Americans and other cultures. Definitely, like Asian culture has different standards. It's very different in our home country as well, and from our families and how we grew up. So I think it's very important to know that like body dysmorphia is so different within the cultures. But another thing to mention is that our families do have a very big impact on how body dysmorphia starts, but it's not ever their fault. Like obviously you love your family the same, but you also have to remember that like they're saying it for your own good, but it also you can like agree, but just brush it off, because at the end of the day, how you view yourself is way more important than how anybody, including your family, views you. So it's important to just like note facts like that, and like when they do tell you comments, or when you do hear comments from anybody, like to take it in a sense that like, okay, somebody is talking to me, but like, what do I think? I think that matters like the most in a sense. But yeah.
I agree with what you just talked about. I think, especially with our parents, we just kind of have to understand where they're coming from and how their own experiences might have formed like their biases and how they treat you. But if you had to take like any action, I feel like I would call them out respectfully, respectfully, and just let them know like how it affects my feelings, especially because your parents do care about how you feel, and usually they do this out of like good intentions for your health. So I feel like if we do communicate, like understand what both sides are going through, it could be good.
Yeah, I think like pointing it out to them is like a big thing, because in like Asian culture, I feel like communication is really lacked, and like even like just saying like, oh, like that didn't make me feel well. Like even if like they didn't mean it, like sometimes they say it and they don't even realize that they like said something wrong. So like just being like, oh hey, like I'm like my own person. Like you said, like I feel like parents' opinions, they like matter so much, but like at the end of the day, if you're happy with your body, you're happy with your body. Like you shouldn't have to change your body for anyone, not even like your parents, like because that's like your own thing. Like I feel like if someone's like an influence on that, like it like could really affect you. So like kind of just like remind yourself that like it's like your own decision on how you want like your body to look, and like it's okay for it to look like different from everyone else. Like you are your own. And honestly, for me, I think also like I see this like happen within like my family like gatherings. So like maybe sometimes just be like whoever, if even if it's not me, like even something said to my sister or like my like cousin or like even my dad or like anyone, just be like, hey, like that's like not like okay to say, you know, just and then like also bring it up to like them and make sure they're okay. Like I think because like if you can like even help others, it's like a big influence, and just be like, oh, like you look fine, like you look like you're perfect, like you like just like keep reminding them, like even if it's like not like you being like attacked, if it's like someone else that you really care about, I feel like you can just like kind of build them up, because like these comments do like take down your self-esteem and like really like lowers your confidence. So like to like remind them that like they look beautiful and that like their their body image is like perfect the way it is like a huge thing that could like really influence them. Like even like the little compliments will really like build up their confidence really quickly.
Yeah, like one thing like I always try to do is like, you know, check in with like family and like not just family, but also like check in with your friends, because like you never know, like someone could be going through like this kind of challenge, and like just giving them like affirmations and like communicating with them, checking in with them, it makes a really big difference. Like, and also I just want to say and like affirm everyone, like everyone's beautiful. You are your own person. Like you do you, like, and like even if these comments like, you know, like they may sting at first, but like over time, like just know like you are your own unique self, and at the end of the day, like you're here for a reason. You're perfect.
I think that's a wrap up of our podcast today, and tune in for our next podcast.